Hey everyone, we'll be starting in a moment. I'm getting everything set up. Okay, close that, close these. Connection seems to be good. Everything seems to be okay. I think we're good to go. So, hi everyone. Welcome to another stream. The first for this week is Great Ace Attorney. We're going to be continuing where we were last time, which was going around finding out what happened at the event site where they were trying to translocate someone from one place to another using electricity or something and a gun. Or cannon, whatever you would call it. It's a lot of stuff. We also found out that Gina is now a investigator or detective in training, so that's fun. And we are about to go to court to the first trial, I believe, unless I'm wrong on that. Something else happens. We have to investigate that now. Other than that, we also met with the Reaper outside of court, so that was fun. We also found out that he has a person in training under him at the moment, wearing a full cloak and shrouded in mystery, and wearing a mask. So, you know, interesting. I wonder who it could be, or what could have been, or if they're going to be important later. I mean, they wouldn't just get introduced just to vanish. That'd be weird. You have to play the third game. But yeah, I think that's everything. We also met with the scientist, I guess. You know, he's crazy. I need to remember what I did for his voice. I know I did like Crazy Scientist Man, but I can't remember how I did it. Because he was a last minute like voicing thing. But yeah, we're going to continue where we were, and then at some point probably get to the court. So without further ado, let us switch over to the game and begin and see what we can get up to. Play! How's everyone doing today, though? Hope everyone had a nice weekend. Mine could have been better. We were going to have session on Saturday, but internet problems. Oh yeah, we were at the Wax Museum. I remember now, we went there. It's been too long. Continue. Yes. Madame Tuspels. Hey, Belleroth. Oh, yeah, we met the hot witch girl. Hit witch woman. Yeah, I remember now. Ugh, the waxworks. Did you make all these waxworks, Madame Tuspels? Or Tuspels? I did. I'm a third generation of waxwork artisans, you know. Gosh. It was my grandmother who began the tradition in my family. Her fortunes were checkered, living through the turbulent times of the French Revolution as she did. No game audio. Oh, weird. There is no game audio. I mean, it's fine because there's no voices at the moment, but that's weird. Let me see if I can fix that. There we go. For some reason, it was on default. Referent, I got it. I got the first time. You don't have to keep saying it. And that one's on the right one. I don't know why it reset it, other than maybe my headset got updated. Okay. Everything seems to be up now. Yeah. Sounds, the voice should be gone. Oh no, the sound should be on now. Anyway, let's continue. Though that is when she acquired the savoir-faire that leads to the astonishing lifelikeliness. Is considered a sin to play without audio? I'm a sinner then. I'll just turn the audio off. All these waxworks really do look as though they're alive. In fact, they do look more alive than Hurley. Evil witch laugh. I can't do like sexy laugh. I can't do that. What you see exhibited here represents the most atrocious of London's criminal past. All the waxworks were created in the presence of the real people on which they were modelled. In the hours immediately following their executions. That is the secret to the extraordinary lifelikeness. That sounds terrifying. All walks of life have similar challenges, I'm sure. To carry out one's trade par excellence, one must go to extraordinary lengths. My exhibits are a reflection of society. I create only that which the public wishes to see. Ugh, why couldn't the public have wished for something less horrifying? Do not fear. Sorry? This room is the only one in the museum with such a macabre theme. I do hope you'll explore. And join my waxworks in eternal life! There are models of famous singers, actors, politicians, something for every taste, I hope. I have to say, that star on our hat's gotta be freaking heavy. It was Iris who dragged me straight in here, come to think of it. Sorry, perhaps I should have eased you into things. What's the situation with that? Ah, my temporary waxwork model. He approached me some days ago, you see, with a business proposal. Oh, what sort of proposal? My dear madam, one of these Spark exhibits need is the addition of a world-famous great detective. Or words to that effect. Naturally, I'm well aware that Mr. Sholmes is widely known in London as a talented detective. It's great detective, actually. He's very specific about it. Yes, the creme de la creme. As so I was keen to come to some arrangement with him, of course. But sadly, we were unable to agree terms. Let me guess, someone wanted to charge an exorbitant price for her services? For a mere £500? I will dive into the cauldron of wax this very moment! Or words to that effect. Mr. Sholmes might have overdone it slightly with the sales pitch. Regrettably, the museum has a shortage of funds at the moment, due to unforeseen circumstances. That's me. So we came to the current arrangement instead. Surely he doesn't really need to do what he's doing, though, does he? I would think not, but he was very insistent. I have a 50-shilling problem. That must be resolved by the morning. Or words to that effect. It's the pawnbroker. That's what it is. He must have something to redeem. Is the consulting detective work not going so well? Something's afoot! And it's a size 12. I wonder, can I ask you something? Thank you. Bien, sir. I'm just curious, is anything going on at the museum at the moment? Some kind of incident, perhaps? Whoever suggested such a thing to you? Oh, well, it was... He's gone. Your temporary waxwork over there who mentioned it to me a little... Oh, he's disappeared. A wax model is a work of art, not some tawdry object for trade. Oh, it's you. There you are! Leaving the exhibit again when you should be working? Do you wish to be melted down? My dear Madame Tuspel, save your reprimands. There are more pressing concerns. The wax can wait. It's our ideas about your current problem we must throw into the melting pot instead. Personally, I would advise you not to involve the police. Why ever not? She turned as white as a sheet. Because you have at your disposal a great detective, whose services you may employ for a mere 50 shillings. Though please be aware that I prefer... No, I insist upon payment in advance. Very well. Let us see if the great detective is able to live up to his name, shall we? Oh yeah, there's a deduction. I remember you saying that last time now. There's going to be a deduction at some point. The waxworker's Rolly scarf. I was thinking that, but I'm also thinking that if this is the guy that was the carriage driver, because he looks similar. Before I engage my analytical processes, I must ask you for something to clarify. What, pray, is behind that curtain? That is the Tuspel special exhibit. There is an extra charge to see it. Ah, the special exhibit in the House of Horrors. It must depict a special killer then, I presume. Would you be so kind as to draw back the curtain, I wonder? Absolutement. None. There is nothing amiss behind there. Nothing amiss, madam. What about the arm protruding ominously from under the curtain? I strongly encourage you to allow me to see what lies beyond before the situation worsens. Yes, very well. I will draw back the curtains, but only a soukon. There's a soukon. Soukon. There you go, French. It's a grave. Number 139. I must confess, I peeked behind the curtain earlier. The Tuspel special exhibit is a very bleak graveyard scene indeed. And yet, something surprisingly, or somewhat surprisingly, the waxwork killer one would expect is nowhere to be seen. What does strike one, however, is the portly gentleman lying peacefully on his back on the floor. Well, then perhaps, Mr. Sholmes. That man on the floor is the ruthless killer himself. I'm afraid not, my dear fellow. He's a perfectly ordinary London gentleman. Not even a waxwork, in fact. What? As skillfully made as these waxworks are, they are always distinguishable from real humans. So, allow me to present my two conclusions. The first is that a sizable business transaction has been taking place in this special exhibit. What? Why would you say that? And the second is that the aforementioned transaction is linked to a serious crime. Ah! She looks as pale as a candle wax. I don't understand. So, Madame Tuspel, as you've agreed to my fee, you shall now have the pleasure of seeing this famously great detective and temporary exhibit at work. Here we go. Whee! The great deduction. The game is afoot. Waxworks fate. To begin with, we must ask ourselves, what exactly is afoot here in this museum? The answer is revealed by the bundle of banknotes protruding so helpfully from your bag. In my estimation, some £200. That is all of my money. My own money. So what does this mean? What does this large sum of money reveal? Ah, not as much as the involuntary glance you cast, it would seem, Madame Tuspels. Or Tuspels. Yes, the answer lies where your eyes now fall. The significance of the £200 is revealed by that public notice. Waxwork for sale? The business has hit hard times, it would seem. In short, you sold the infamous killer, the centerpiece of your special exhibit, for the sum of £200. I ain't gonna have to read that, Sholmes. No. Oh, no. Now, let us explore the curiosity with which we are presented. Who is this portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you. Unfortunately, madam, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the £200. It would appear that you have twisted this gentleman around your little finger most effectively. What are you suggesting? It's kind of funny that he got hired by her and he's like lambasting her. It's like, it's all your fault. You hired me. He rashly agreed to purchase the waxwork for the sum of £200. Only when he came to hand the money over did it occur to him what an extortionate amount he was paying. But the money was no longer in his hands. And the result, the scene we see before us. He collapsed in shock. Yes, the killer in this special exhibit fetched a killer price. We can only pray that the gentleman's dreams are not plagued with regret. Sold for cash. Waxwork location. The question that arises then is what becomes of the waxworks that was changed hands. Well, that has changed hands. Let us consider the problem for a moment. You cannot possibly... What immediately strikes me about this conundrum is the young man standing over there. Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his neckerchief. Such as worn by the police as a secret sign to fellow members of the force that a crime is being perpetrated. Yes, this young man is an undercover policeman, currently investigating this museum. I know him well, in fact. It's Sergeant John Clay. What are you talking about? The man's quite a celebrity. He received triple accolades at last year's policing awards. But... Next, we turn our attention to the old man sat before him with particular unsightly visage. It's so rude to him. I have been watching closely as it moved a muscle, almost in fact as if he were a waxwork. But you... Your reaction only confirms my suspicions, madam. I noticed it at once, of course. Observe. The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is obviously the price tag. Threepence? A tragically low price, you might say. Though perhaps the going rate for aging waxworks riddled with cracks. And yet you sold it to the portly gentleman for an exorbitant £200. The sort of plucky behaviour that's sure to attract the attention of Scotland Yard. Isn't that so, madam? I do not... Yes, the waxwork you sold has already been seized by the police and remains in their custody as we speak. The old man must be reunited with his grave in the special exhibit, and not a moment too soon. Great work, Sholmes. Great work. Discovered already. This thus concludes Sherlock Sholmes' great deduction of this horrifying puzzle. I see I've stunned you all into silence. You have, Hurley, you have. And you've obviously upset this young lady in the process, so Colden looks awfully hot. If I could just bring up 1 point, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, the notorious Naruhodo, 1 point. I'm all ears, my dear fellow. According to your deduction, then, the special exhibit featured this old policeman. So that would mean that he's the particular ruthless murderer, wouldn't it? The killer policeman, Ottomol. Sorry? It was a mysterious series of murders that rattled the capital only last year. The police rushed to the scene every time, only to find the culprit had disappeared into the ether. And it turned out the culprit was a policeman himself, a senior officer by the name of Ottomol. So you mean that's who's the sinister-looking old man there supposed to be? Indeed, it is a particular grim face, is it not? Unforgettable, in fact. Yes, I remember that odious countenance only too well. But is it £200 a lot of money for a wax model? It would be enough to afford one of the latest steam carriages if that puts things in perspective. So, it is quite a lot then. Is there anything else you wish to add before I melt you down? That bubbling wax is looking more and more ominous. The smell of all that molten wax is starting to worry me. Mr. Sholmes did more or less just accuse her to face. Accuse her to her face. So, I think I might have to call you on your assistant here, Iris. Is that alright? To make some minor corrections to the Great Detective's great deductions. Of course it's alright. We'll soon set things straight. Well, let's get started then, shall we? Before Madame Tuspels vents her rage. Just what I was waiting to hear, my dear fellow. So, Madame Tuspels, in accordance with our agreement, you shall now have the pleasure of seeing this famously great detective and temporary exhibit at work. For the second time. But with actual, peer review. Here we are once again. To begin with, we must ask ourselves what exactly is afoot here in this museum. The answer is revealed by the bundle of banknotes protruding so helpfully from your bag. In my estimation, some £200. That is all my own money. So what does this large sum of money reveal? Not as much as the involuntary glance you cast, it would seem, Madame Tuspels. Yes, the answer lies where your eyes now fall. The significance of the £200 is revealed by that public notice. She definitely looked in this direction, it's true. But I'm not sure she'd sell any of her waxworks even for £200. Oh? She must pour her heart and soul into making them, don't you think? Over and above the wax. If it were me, I wouldn't sell them for anything. For that much money, I would. But it sounds like that makes me a bad person. Not really. Oh, well, anyway. I wonder if the £200 could have some other significance. Let's follow that furtive glance again and see if there's anything else that could explain it. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Oh. What's that note doing pinned on the wall there? Oh, yes, let's see. Sholmes must be so bored. Yeah, probably. He's been standing around this whole time. Dear Madame Tuspels, or Tuspels, we have taken the prisoner from this room. The price for his safe return is £200. Have the money ready by noon at 23rd of October. What? This is... It's just like the sort of thing that's left behind when someone is kidnapped. Yes, it's a ransom note. Exactly. Well, that was easy.
Take that!
The significance of the £200 is revealed by that ransom note. Quite so, and we must congratulate these criminals on their inventiveness in adopting a waxwork. £200 is no small ransom fee, yet you clearly intend to pay it. The model in question has special importance, so I put together all the money I have. In summary, then, the £200 you have in your handbag is ransom money. Now, let us explore the next curiosity with which we are presented. Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock. the cause of which is clearly known to you. Unfortunately, madam, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the £200. Well, now we know it's not that. So if the waxwork was kidnapped, where does that leave us in terms of who this man is? We could just ask him when he comes around. I think the point of this exercise is to understand the beauty of the deduction process, Iris. Yes, you're right. Heard he's trying so hard we mustn't let him down. Well, there's little doubt that he suffered a shock, that much seems clear. But in that case, then what's Madame Tuspel's trying to hide? Let's have a closer look around. Is she been injured or something? Ah! This is just Madame Tuspel's right hand, isn't it? Yes, it must be. I can clearly see her left hand after all. Oh, but wait a minute. This is the left hand as well, look. Don't say such creepy things, Iris, please. And it seems very stiff, too. In fact, it's really hard. Okay. You mean it's made of wax? Long hair braid. I could just look at that. Madame Tuspel's has very long hair, doesn't she? Yes, but you couldn't tell looking at her from the front. You know, it looks rather like a whip, don't you think? The sort of whip that could have floored the gentleman with a single crack. And that seems a little far-fetched, even for you, Runo. I like it.
Take that!
Waxwork hand, go! What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the waxwork hand. Indeed, with a solid waxwork limb, one could deliver a very substantial blow. How could you... The hand protruding from the bottom of your cape. It ought to be a right hand, but a closer inspection reveals that it is in fact a left hand. And somewhat masculine as well. In other words, it does not belong to you, madam. It is the hand of a waxwork model. Can't. Oh, it's an entire arm! Jesus! I thought it was just a hand! Some of the visitors to my museum can be troublesome. They meddle with the exhibits and cause damage. So you mean that arm? Yes, this gentleman saw fit to try and remove it as a souvenir. Oh, it's an actual guy! Okay, I thought I was just going to say, actually, no, he's a waxwork. No, he's a real man. Huh. No small keepsake. Like taking a whole branch of a cherry tree when you go to view the blossoms. What? I'm afraid I had to teach the man a lesson. You confronted the man and tried to take the arm back. And the result? The scene we see before us. He was knocked unconscious. The point we may need to revisit later, but for the time being we have our conclusion. Yes, the killer in this special exhibit has been kidnapped. Kidnapped. Yeah! Solved. Next part. The end of the braid is a broom? Yeah, seems so. Don't you pull a braid? Even if a bell does ring, that's rude. Baloroth, get him! Get Rapotron! Beat him! Destroy him! I'll join you. The question that arises then is what becomes of the waxwork that changed hands? Let us consider the problem for a moment. You cannot possibly... What immediately strikes me about this conundrum is the young man standing over there. Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his neckerchief. He's the one that's probably missing the arm. According to Mr. Sholmes, the yellow neckerchief is a sign to other policemen that some crime is underway. A way of communicating with his colleagues without revealing his identity, yes. It's a secret that's closely guarded by Scotland Yard. That Mr. Sholmes didn't hesitate to give it away. Well, uncovering secrets is in any true detective's nature, of course. Right. Anyway, judging from Madame Tuspel's reaction to Mr. Sholmes' reduction, I think perhaps he might not have identified the man quite correctly. There you go.
Take that!
I meant to examine it first, but I presented it anyway. Who's this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his shoulder stub. No such boneless human walks the earth, of that I can assure you. In other words, the man standing here, the young Sergeant John Clay, is in fact defying all odds, a waxwork model. I seem to remember it was you who concluded he was a real person in the first place, Mr. Sholmes. He has become quite a celebrity in London, being the winner of no less than 3 policeman awards last year. I simply had to make a model of the man. Naturally! What other explanation could there be? And it was the detective's arm that was pulled off by the man on the floor there in the special exhibit, wasn't it? And next we turn our attention to the old man sat before him with this particular unsightly visage. I've been watching closely as it moved a muscle, almost in fact, as if he were a waxwork. But you... Your reaction only confirms my suspicions, madam. I noticed it at once, of course. Observe. The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is obviously the price tag. A killer policeman called Ottermole, was it? Was he well known? It was all over the papers last year, but I can't say I know what he looks like. He's a very low price, though. Threepence isn't much money. Only enough for a few measly hours of gas in Mr. Garrideb's delightful lodgings, in fact. So this is the special killer taken from the special exhibit, is it? The waxwork that somebody stole from the museum and tried to ransom for £200. Is this crusty old killer police Ottermole? Really? Perhaps we should have a look around again and see if there's another idea crops up. Look at this! The old man's tapping his foot like crazy. He seems to be fast asleep, though. He's not tapping his foot consciously, then. So you mean... It must be a twitch. Never mind that. The point is, waxworks don't tap their feet. Or twitch. And look at his arm, too. We've seen a scarf like that somewhere else around here, haven't we? I don't believe it. It's a secret sign that lets the other detectives know some criminal activity is underway. Yes, it's a slightly strange choice of outfit if he's trying to go unnoticed. He must be a detective disguised as a policeman. Or a detective disguised as a waxwork model of a policeman. He doesn't look like he's clever enough to think of something like that, though. Perhaps you should try to be a little more polite about him, Iris. I was just saying that, Battleroth, me and you should jump Raffatron because, for some reason, I've already forgotten what the reason was, so it doesn't matter now. Perhaps you should try to be a little more polite about him, Iris. I guess the twitch. The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this man is a waxwork is the obvious twitch. Even the most realistic waxworks do not exhibit a twitch. In other words, this splendid old man is in fact a genuine member of Scotland Yard. Slightly shift in your choice of adjectives, then. And there you have it. Well, Madame Tuspels? Well, what? It was me who contacted the police and demanded that someone come in the first place. He is clearly fatigued. He's sound asleep. But then, what's this tag about showing a price of three pence? No doubt the price tag of the muffler which the old hobobby purchased recently at a local market. And I presume you observed the scarf tied around his arm? Does that not strike you, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, the secret sign used by detectives to show that some criminal activity is underway. Of course, because as you know, there has been just such a criminal activity happening here. As deduced from the very beginning, Detective. So, it would seem that we finally arrived at the truth. The waxwork of the specially ruthless killer from the special exhibit has been kidnapped. And Scotland Yard is already investigating. But the model's whereabouts remains a mystery. Thus concludes Sherlock Sholmes' great deduction of this horrifying puzzle. Yeah! Still a mystery. Deduction complete. Elementary. All sorts of people visit my museum here, men and women, young and old. Sometimes they drop in just for a short time on their way back from the pub. I welcome them all, but if anyone tries to damage my exhibits, I do not take it lightly. And then I kill them and stuff them into a waxwork. Anyway. Whee! Your great deduction was even more enchanting than I'd been led to believe. It was a pleasure, my dear madam. I'm gratified that you enjoyed the spectacle. And as for your rough customer, I doubt he'll regain consciousness shortly and return home. I've no doubt. What concerns me more is the waxwork from the special display. If it was indeed genuinely abducted... Yes, tragically it was. Then I would ask you to recount to us the events surrounding the stolen waxwork. In as much detail as possible, if you please. Very well. But after I have told you what I know, I must insist that you return to your work. The talents of a great detective could be put to better use, I feel, but as you wish. Tell me everything. Tell us more about the stolen waxworks, please. It was some days ago now when I came in here one morning. I immediately noticed that a waxwork was missing from the special exhibit here. It is your most prominent display, so that's why the curtains were closed. And I found the ransom note in its place. The culprit must have broken in during the night and taken it then. So this waxwork that was stolen is a model of some kind of horrible criminal, I suppose. It's of Barak von Zeeks. Of a particular horrible criminal, in fact. The killer who left a more profound scar on society than any other, I would say. The Professor. Oh, not a name I've heard of. So, Mr. Naruhodo, it seems the circle is complete. Sorry? The Professor case happened around at the time I was born, didn't it? Indeed it did, Iris. 10 years ago, a series of murders that rocked the capital. 10 years ago? Yes, at exactly the time that Barak von Zeeks graduated from university, in fact. Oh! What? Surely he's not saying... So the big event that changed Mr. Reaper's life. As you've surmised, it was by the Professor... It was the Professor case. Who was the Professor then? Woo! It was a series of gruesome murders that had all of the London crypt in terror a decade ago. After 5 victims were killed, the man was arrested and put to death. I'm trying to imagine Sherlock or Herlock as 10 years younger at the moment. He's even more hyperactive, I think. He's like upside down on the ceiling on that one. And now he's immortalized here in waxwork for all Londoners to admire and enjoy. Though, of course, he happens to be absent at present on account of the abduction. But I don't understand. How is all this related to Lord Van Zeeks? You must first understand, my dear fellow, why it is that the Professor earned such infamy. It was due to the victims he chose, some of Whitehall's finest. What do you mean, Hurley? Those murdered by the Professor were some of the highest members of the British aristocracy. Members of the nobility, even royalty. It sent shockwaves through the country's administration. Members of the... wait, of course. What Professor Harebrained said. Lord Van Zeeks' family with noble blood. Oh, gosh. It was the fifth victim that led to the Professor's arrest. The last of the killer's prey was a young noble by the name of Clint Van Zeeks. No, I don't believe it. Van Zeeks? I'm sure you can piece together the rest for yourself. In the wake of his older brother's murder, the young Barak pursued a career as a prosecutor, and eventually became the Reaper we know today. I had no idea Lord Van Zeeks had such a tragic past. It's almost like one of my Japanese animes. Well, I'm afraid that's all I can say on the matter, for the time being at least. After all, I have work to do. As a waxwork exhibit. I get the feeling you guys are quoting something. I'm afraid I shall have to ask you to excuse myself as well. Oh, yes, of course. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Well, none of the predicted scenarios I've been analyzing involved you coming to visit me here. Oh! It's been too long, really it has. I'm delighted to see you, Barak. It's been 10 years, and here we are, meeting in prison of all places. I can't forgive myself what happened to Mr. Asman. I just can't. I still can't believe it could happen. Tomorrow, the court will decide. Yes. I have a young Eastern man acting in for my defense. He seems reliable enough, though. Well, it was an accident, a terrible accident. He assured me he could prove it. I must warn you. Oh, I know. I've heard it already. You're going to be prosecuting, aren't you? Yes. Since I returned to England, I've heard lots of stories. Barak, are you really... What? Never mind. I know that you have my best interests at heart. My friend is on trial. I wouldn't entrust it to anybody else. Of course. I fully understand. Thank you, Barak. Trying to make him sound like a mad scientist when he's speaking normally is a little odd. Until tomorrow, then. I will see you in court. They're best friends. He's really hitting the camera with a blue-eyed stare. He knows the cameraman's there, and he's giving him the stink eye. He knows he's in a video game somehow. He's the only one that does. 23rd of October, 8:52 a.m. The Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. I can't believe it's been 6 months since I was last allowed to work in court. And here now I am. Well, now here I am, back at the Old Bailey. Ah, Mr. Naruhodo. Good morning, Professor Harebrained. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. The atmospheric pressure in here is off the charts. I've never felt anything like it. It's crushing me. I feel it every time I'm here. That gravity. Well, this is Britain's highest court. What, are you telling me it's fitted with some kind of device that can actually control air pressure? I think it's probably all in the mind. Ah, yes. Well, you won't let me down, won't you, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm counting on you today's trial. To save my life. To save the secret of my super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine from being made public. Yes, I understand. I know what I have to do. I have to establish that the explosion 2 days ago was nothing more than an unfortunate accident. Well, I'm sure there's nothing to worry about, really. Justice will prevail. I don't know who this is yet, so my commiserations, Mr. Naruhodo. You appear to have been lumbered with the most tiresome case here. Oh! Mr. Sholmes, I didn't expect to see you here. That was very mean, Runo, leaving me all alone at home with the Hurley. I said Rowley. Who's... the freaking scarf threw me off for a moment and made me think of Rowley. It took me at least an hour to wake him up. Is it? Are you? Here, Herlock Sholmes? Indeed, sir, I am he. Herlock Sholmes. Oh, I've heard all about your exploits, even whilst living in Germany. Yes, Rand's magazine is on sale in Germany too. This month's installment was sublime. Your introduction into the adventures of Silver Blaze was wonderful. I'm starting to get more and more into the freaking, like, pain voice, and I shouldn't. Yes, a most memorable case indeed. It concerned a snake, I seem to recall. No, that was the speckled band. Well, thank you for coming. I do appreciate your support, as strange as it is. Do me a favor and look up Van Zeek's unused sprite. I can remember to do that later. I'm sorry to disappoint you, my dear fellow, but I'm afraid I can't stay. Oh. I have urgent business at Madame Two-Spells. You mean your waxwork job? No, the waxwork abduction, of course. Madame has engaged my services. Ah, so you're trying to get to the bottom of that ransom note, are you? And it turns out it's related to this case somehow. This week's wages depend on it, as does the safe return of the waxwork, naturally. As such, I intend to give it my undivided attention. Oh, well, never mind then. I understand. Of course, with my skills of observation and reasoning, resolving the matter will be as easy as a proverbial pie. I shall return forthwith. For until I solve the case, I shall have no money to afford a pie of any description. Okay. Ooh. Then you must absolutely give it your full attention, Hurley. Quite, Iris, quite. But life is riddled with irony, you know. Whenever I give something my full attention, I have a quite insatiable desire for pie. One of the universe's intractable mysteries, you might say. But why, though? Pies suck. Unless it's a dessert pies. Oh, yes, quite. Definitely, absolutely. I totally understand. Is this someone a little starstruck? I wish you the very best of luck, Professor Harebrain. Oh, why, thank you. Before I depart, Mr. Naruhodo, a word in your ear, if you please. What's this about? As you have remarkably little grounding in science, I feel I ought to inform you. As compelling in this super high voltage instantaneous kinesis hypothesis may be, a practical implementation such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibition is quite impossible. But the professor said the demonstration was a success. Yes, it would appear that he firmly believes it was. I've read Professor Bunnybrain's paper about it too, Runo, and I have to say, I'm sure it can't be done. It would barely be done theoretically, let alone practically. So he's completely barking up the wrong tree? But how could an experiment that had no possibility of succeeding in fact succeed? That's contradictory. And it's the contradiction that will be at the heart of the trial, I've no doubt. What's that supposed to mean? Now I must hurry along. I wish you the best of luck, my dear fellow. See you later, Hurley. And then he jumps out the window. Well, it looks like you're on your own today, Runo. But chin up, you can do it. Oh, what about you, Iris? No, I'm afraid I can't help. I have something I needed to do. I was just about to say, why does it seem as though, like, Naruto has to always have someone with him in order when he does a case? This time he's not having to have anyone, which is great. I see. It's going to be a big surprise for you when you find out what it is. She makes a pie machine. That sounds ominous. The counsel for the defense and the defendant. Court is about to be in session. Make your way into the courtroom at once. Run away. An experiment that the laws of science say can't possibly succeed. And a scientist who's convinced that it did. That's the riddle you have to unlock here, Ryunosuke. That's the key to this case. The 23rd of October, 9:10 a.m., the Old Bailey courtroom. Do I see new people? I see new people on the jury for a change. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are sitting today for the public trial of Professor Albert Harebrained. I now call upon the counsel for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord. I'm 6 months out of practice, and what's more, I'm alone. I don't have my girlfriend with me. I'm without Susato-san today. Is it just my imagination, or does the air in here feel even more oppressive than unusual? So, I must say I recollect the victims of this case all too well. Mr. Odie Asman. Mr. Asman was well known as a financier, though that was merely a front for his diversive criminal activities. It was only a month ago that the man appeared in court, prosecuted by Lord Ranjix. But the jury unanimously found him not guilty. Because member of the jury had been bribed by the sound of it. These powerful London criminals are prepared to go to extreme lengths to keep their freedom. Susato just pieced out, yeah. But 2 days ago, on the 21st of October, Mr. Asman met his end. The work of the Reaper, was it? If that is how your lordship would describe divine retribution. But the fact remains that Mr. Asman's death was a direct result of the actions of the accused, Professor Harebrained. Very well then. And now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been selected at random to represent the will of the people. I'm getting more and more like cottonmouth with this guy. I need to calm down. Are the six of you ready to fulfill your societal duty? Oh, I'm most gratified to have been selected to carry out this important civic duty, my lord. Oh God, to have a man's fate in the palms of one's hands, oh gosh, oh golly, it sends shivers down my spine. What the hell? Science experiments, magic, conjuring tricks, courtroom trials, all are nothing more than performances. Any spurious scholars that defies the reputation of science deserve to hang. We haven't listened to what you said on both sides, Fence. And settle in one, that's it, isn't it? I don't like her. Wasn't like this in my day, wasn't like this at all. That's the police killer Ottomol lookalike. again. And he's exhausted as ever, it seems. Now, as I'm sure as you're all aware, the incident that we're here to judge today tragically took place at the Great Exhibition shortly after its opening. Though the death toll could have been far worse, the exception of the victim was no one was killed. And nevertheless, the big dream of the science being exhibited rapidly turned into nightmare for the spectators. A tragic turn of events, and as such the eyes of all of London, no, the whole world will be on this trial. It is our duty to reach a swift and just conclusion, I feel. So, your opening statement please, Lord Backseat. At the heart of this incident is the technology never before demonstrated anywhere in the world. One science's latest developments, I take it. The government is keen to capitalize on the Great Exhibition to improve Britain's technical advantage. The technology demonstrated by the accused was described as high voltage, super high voltage instantaneous kinesis. Good lord! It's designed to disassemble human subjects using extremely high voltage electricity. And beam them instantly to another location where they are subsequently reassembled. Is such a thing even within the realms of possibility? I can't remember the voice I gave you already. Oh, well, I don't believe that's it for sure. Disassembling people with electricity? My goodness, how shocking. Oh, the whole idea is absurd. The imposters should never stand up to scrutiny. I'm having to, like, do this thing where I'm, like, put my fingers on my cheeks and pushing in rather than pulling out in order to do his voice. Sir, I don't believe you're a member of the Royal Society, or you're not an expert in your field. I am, and that's why this man has been considered primal. Kinesis is poppycock. So this expert and Mr. Sholmes are in agreement. It's impossible. What is the prosecution's view on the matter? The prosecution could assert... wrong voice. The prosecution would assert that the accused instantaneous kinesis demonstration was a success. What? What? Hold on. The prosecution's or professor's hypothesis is currently under investigation by the British government. If it is deemed to have merit, its substantial research grants would be made available. The accused made use of their invention built on this new hypothesis to take Mr. Asmund's life, in order to be the sole benefactor for the grant. But... this disastrous demonstration was no accident. It is carefully designed for the outset to end the life of the victim. In a few streams, it's just the Charlie Brown adults, yeah. I need to get like a saxophone for that or whatever. Or a trombone. Oh, thank you, Lord Backseat. The prosecution's stance is clear. But you will now bring forth witnesses to substantiate your claims. Gladly, my lord. Dramatic cape throw. Bailiff shows the first witness to the stand. It's the policeman and Chips. Witnesses, state your name and occupations for the court. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector of Scotland Yard's Homicide Division. I was on duty at the demonstration on the day in question and in charge of the following investigation. Albert Harebrain, scientist. You were born in England but have carried out research in Germany in recent years, correct? Yes, that's right. But after graduating from university in Britain, I went to work in Germany and made an amazing discovery. Which is what brought me back. I have to demonstrate my incredible hypothesis at the Great Exhibition. What you demonstrated was incredible, all right? An incredible explosion. But the science was a success. The instantaneous kinesis worked. Everyone saw it. They must have done. Yes, that was a terrible accident, but the demonstration of my hypothesis was correct. I can't say the word anymore. Well, that much is undeniable, as shown in the photograph taken by the forensic investigation team. This was taken inside the Crystal Tower, I take it. The central place of the explosion, no less. That's right, my lord. Seems the victim ran straight into it. For someone that ran straight into the clock tower, he seems perfectly fine. Just with the blood split stain. I see. Very well, so with the photograph as evidence. As the court heard, the victim of the incident was Mr. Odie Asman. There have been a number of allegations made against the man, but putting him aside for the time being, he was the man who financed the research for the experiment and the demonstration himself. I see. So to summarize the situation, the defendant is accused of taking the life of the man who funded his work. Would that be correct? Exactly. But couldn't it be that the explosion was caused by some malfunction in the apparatus used for the demonstration? That's right, that must be it! My splendid machine! My poor splendid machine! Oh, it took 1.8 gigawatts! I can't do the voice! Also, my throat's starting to, get too dry, and I'm drinking water, it's not doing anything. You saw it yesterday, didn't you? We're calling some of the wreckage thanks to the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. What? The wreckage? The wreckage? Not that being the case, how can the facts be established? How could it possibly determine whether this was an accident or deliberate and malicious act? Extremely simply, my lord. I beg your pardon. Isn't that right, witness? What? Sorry? Me? No, your neighbor. Yes, sir, it was murder, plain and simple. Anyone could state that with complete certainty. Should be able to do both parts in this stream. We'll find out. What? How can he possibly think that? Well, like you expect, I think we better proceed with the formal testimony. You will explain to the court on what grounds you claim this experiment has been in front of murder. His whole thing is a bit, well, just look at him, he looks like a murderer. A front for murder. The corpse that went crashing through the Crystal Tower had a broken neck. I made a minor miscalculation in the angle of the beam projection, that's all. That was my mistake. But the post-mortem examination revealed another injury, a fatal wound. There was a lesion in his chest that we'd clearly been stabbed by something sharp right in the heart. So the victim was killed before he went anywhere, and this fella's the only one who could have done it. That makes no sense, man. There's literally recordings of him not even anywhere near him. An extraordinary business. In addition to suffering a broken neck, the victim was stabbed in the heart. Information I would really like to have heard before from someone other than the judge. The coroner says the death would have been all but instant from a wound like that. You could say, in fact, that the victim was killed twice by the accused. No! That would be further from the truth! I have here the experiment plan document that was submitted to the security team. The victim stood himself inside something called the birdcage, ready to be beamed instantly. To the second level of the Crystal Tower, about 25 yards away. The experiment did not go according to plan, however. As the machine was put into the operation, there was a large explosion. The blast caused the beam's transmitter to points higher than intended. Accordingly, the kinesis resulted in the birdcage materializing in midair, from where it subsequently fell, crashing through the glass of the Crystal Tower's large round window. My word! One assumes the victim's neck was broken upon impact with the tower, then. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean for this to happen. The machine's just so powerful. But honestly, really, I swear, it was an accident, a terrible accident. I can't do this voice anymore. Unfortunately, that excuse can't save you. No, considering that the sharp weapon that pierced the victim's heart. Murder weapon? What are you saying? This autopsy report was submitted by the coroner. The prosecution would like to enter it into the court record. Your request is granted, counsel. This report has been entered into the court record. I was there in person, you know. I saw the whole ludicrous performance. And the only person on the stage was Mr. Asman, and a disgraceful excuse for a scientist. Well, then really, by all accounts, it must have been him. Oh, it's hard to think otherwise, really. Very well, counsel for the defense. Proceed with the cross-examination, please. Oh, yes, my lord. I need to focus here. It's been a while. Woo!
Hold it!
Are you suggesting that's because he fell from a considerable height? Exactly. Which highlights something else about the whole Sigma business. What's that? The fact that the instantaneous kinesis itself was a serious success. After those explosions, the cage fell with the fella inside suddenly appeared out of nowhere in midair. Although the experiment ended in disaster, the so-called instantaneous kinesis didn't really actually occur. Remind us, Professor, what was the cause of the fatal disaster?
Hold it!
So the angle of projection is critical, is it? And you calculated it yourself, personally? Absolutely! Calculation is far too complicated for anyone but me to carry out. Only you got it wrong, didn't you, Sunshine? Yes, that's right. That's the point. The calculation is so complicated, even I can make a mistake. Do people fall for the brazen confidence? I should try it. I took into account the subject's height and weight, the sun's direction, the ambient temperature. I considered every possible variable. So I just don't understand how this could have happened. Obviously, then, you had to conclude the weight of the clothes Mr. Asma was wearing at the time, I suppose. Crackling comments! The answer should have been 3! So much for safety first. The 3 must be for safety third. What the postmortem blah 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 blah.
Hold it!
Another fatal injury, you say? That doesn't make any sense. I didn't think you'd have to spell this out, but here we go. Just because there were 2 fatal wounds doesn't mean I'm saying the victim had 2 lives to lose, does it, Sunshine? Too right. Obviously, at first, we thought that the bloke died to his spine snapping in half as well. But you're saying that's not the case? You'll get your answer once I've finished my fish and chips. If you don't mind, keep butting in every few seconds. But we all know that's a bottomless bag. The victim plummeted 30 feet into a glass tower. It would be reasonable to assume that the cause of death. You fool. Right, that's what we're saying all thought. But it was a red herring, wasn't it, Sunshine? I keep adding Sunshine on. It's like he's saying...
Hold it!
The defense knew nothing of this crucial information. The prosecution received this report from the forensic investigation team only this morning. That was the first we knew of it as well. I can only apologize for the impossibility of informing the defense. Sarcastic and insincere? Thanks. So, what was the nature of this sharp object? Among the accused tools that were used in the demonstration, one is of particular interest. This. Oh, yes. That would appear to be some kind of screwdriver, wouldn't it? Hurrah! There he is! My trusty little companion, Andrew! Andrew? Of course. Ah, do you know each other already? He's one of my dear friends, like all my tools. I've named them all, you know. We're one big happy family. Andrew is my flat-headed screwdriver, of course. His brother Michael is a crosshead. Ah, well, it would appear your beloved Andrew has a red stain on his shank. That isn't... It's blood, beyond all reasonable doubt. No! And that's not all. The long, sharp shape of this Andrew fellow is completely consistent with the victim's wounds. What? Order! Order! The court will enter this warrant into the defense as what evidence? Screwdriver has been entered into the court record. Time to examine this thing. So one of Professor Harebrain's tools is the murder weapon, which I will now look at. We'll also look at this, I guess. It looks like layers of thick canvas with a thick rubber lining of sorts. I've never seen anything like it before, but applying Mr. Shelves' methods, you might deduce it was part of a raincoat worn by someone who really, really didn't want to get wet. And the charring must have occurred when the person was struck by lightning. Or maybe not. This A shape must make it very hard to use. I've never seen a usually shaped handle before. It's the same screw that was lodged in the grill of the floor of the kinesis machine. Which would be important information, so I should definitely make a note of it. Oh! This is blood. Mr. Asmund's, no doubt. Luckily it's not Chris's. This is the problem with looking at murder weapons. Great.
Hold it!
What grounds do you have for saying that? Huh, did you really ask me? Or you really need to ask me? There were only 2 people at that public experimentation stage in front of the whole crowd. The victim, Mr. Odie Asmund, and the accused, Professor Harebrain. And we know for certain that before the experiment, the victim was alive. And that's right, I saw him with my own eyes. Furthermore, the following the explosion and kinesis, nobody went anywhere near the body. They were too scared. Probably gives more talk, yeah, maybe, but it's hard to hold.
Great Scott!
In other words, only someone else on stage with the victim could have done it.
Excuse me.
Professor Harebrain, do you have some information that may be relevant here? Professor! Sorry. I just calculated the optimal efficiency of electrolysis to separate molecules in the human body. And the witness stand is the best place for that? It seemed as though you might have something to say. About Inspector Gregson's last remark? Yes, that's right. Of course. He just said that nobody else could have done it, didn't he? Yeah, that's right. No, who else could have stabbed the victim? I don't know, but there's no way that I could have possibly stabbed that Mr. Asmund, as you say. Explain, please, Professor. Of course, this cold-hearted policeman may not be aware, I suppose. But humans are warm-blooded mammals with blood running continuously through their veins. I had heard. Then surely you see. If I plunged something the size of Mr. Andrew into the man's chest, the whole stage would have been a blood bath. No, a blood swimming pool. But thousands of Londoners were watching me at the time. And yet not one of them claims to have seen a swimming pool of blood. Well, no, I suppose not. You see, not one. True, I didn't see anything like that. Well done, Professor. That was a great counter-argument. Objection. Order! Order! Dramatic wine pouring. Or grape juice. Pray forgive the discourtesy if I savour a drop of my hallowed chalice to accompany my old friend's adjuicing. Here's to you, Albert. Oh, you're too kind, Barrack, but I'm really not a patch on you. No, you're not. No? You've neglected to mention one crucial possibility. I have? A particular situation in which very little bleeding would have resulted from a stab wound. Of course. Inspector, enlighten the court, please. Yes, sir. Where are they going with this? Very well, you will amend your formal testimony now, Inspector Gregson. How much longer do we have this left? Because my throat's starting to, like, really fall out. Fall out. The weapon the victim had stabbed with must have been turfed in his body while he was beamed through the air.
Hold it!
Why would you think that, Inspector? With any wound, it's only when you pull the weapon out that profuse bleeding occurs. Whilst it's still lodged in the body, it acts as a stopper for some sorts, for a want of a better word. I see. You don't need a medical degree to be aware of this fact. It's common knowledge for any investigator. Where's Susanna-san when you need her? If you ask me, this bloke masked what he was doing from the view with his body before stabbing Asmund in the chest. Then he beamed the victim off the stage with this fancy device, the screwdriver still where he planted it. One more testimony, okay. I would never do such a thing, not to my precious tools. I would never use them for such dirty work. You only use tools for their intended purpose. That's common knowledge for any scientist. The fact remains the lack of blood on the scene can be easily explained, as the prosecution has demonstrated. So that's all the testimony I have to work with. I had no idea the victim had been stabbed. That changes everything. Did Van Zieks keep that to himself until now on purpose, to gain the advantage? Oh well, I suppose all I can do is press these witnesses for as much new information as possible. Right. 21st of October, around 20 p.m. Hemorrhage of a wound on the chest that pierced the heart, inflicted by a sharp implement. A broken vertebra that locally resulted from impact from sudden fall from a considerable height. On the front page about the Great Exhibition. Was a common century. I was hoping it would tell me the actual time. See, the thing is, if he was hidden from view and it get left in, wouldn't that mean there'd be...
Objection!
Nah. The defense would have to object to that last statement, my lord. And I would like to overrule your objection, counsel. That was fast. The defense would have to accept the penalty given. I'm glad to hear it. And you would also have to think again. Although I guess we just presented because it was found on the thing. You say that while the weapon remains in the body, there's very little bleeding. Is that unequivocal? Look, there was no blood in the experimentation stage, even though the fellow was stabbed. The only explanation for that is that the screwdriver was still in his body, stopping any bleeding, sunshine. It's common medical knowledge, my learned friend, even on your side of the world. Yes, but about the screwdriver, the thing is, we actually saw it in the scene ourselves, on the experimentation stage. What? Why'd I say it like that? What? It was on the floor by the wreckage of the machine, poking through a metal grill. I went to pick it up, but the detective here stopped me. Isn't that right, Inspector Gregson? Well... now you come to mention it, yes. Inspector, are we to understand that you permitted the defense counsel to investigate? And that you contravened the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act? No, not at all. I wouldn't do that. I just let him look, nothing more. I was very clear he wasn't to touch a thing. Yes, that's true. This screwdriver was in plain sight on the stage. But it shouldn't have been, should it? What are you getting at, Sunshine? Stop saying that! It's not. If the words are not there, don't say that. If this tool had been still in the victim's body, then the victim was beamed away by the machine. Then it shouldn't have been still on the stage. That's right. It should have been beamed across to the Crystal Tower along with Mr. Asman. And beams now found lodged in his victim's chest. Order! How do you explain this, Inspector? I don't. It looks as though everything that the victim had on his person moved with him when he was beamed. If the screwdriver was still in his chest when the instantaneous kinesis occurred, obviously that should have been beamed to the destination as well. This is a strange situation. Even though the people are saying that this instantaneous kinesis is a scientific impossibility, we're still basing arguments on the assumption that it actually did take place. Alright, time to tighten the screws here. My lord, if the prosecution is unable to explain this inconsistency in its argument, we can only conclude that the testimony given in support cannot be relied upon. Lord Van Zeeks is stumped. I was not expecting a voice line for it. Do you have something to say, witness? Yes, I knew it. It bears out. The equations hold. Mr. Naruhodo, don't worry. About what? Without delving into the details, there's no inconsistency. What? Even if Andrew had been lodged in Mr. Andrew Asman's chest, my trusty tool wouldn't have moved. Andrew remaining on the stage is consistent with my calculations. What? You're not helping here. Ah! It would seem your illusions have been shattered. Clearly, we should hear the accused's explanation. Or should I say, this brilliant scientist's explanation? Why is it when it's against him, he's like, we should not listen to them because they'll lie. But when it's a guy saying, it's the accused saying that, oh no, this is actually true, this is what would happen. He's like, we should listen to him for a moment. Just when I'd found an inconsistency in the prosecution's argument. Scientists. Or scientists. Very well, the defense will testify again. Provide us with a scientific explanation as to why the inconsistency asserted by the defense fails to uphold. In the name of Apollo, I will, my lord. Apollo? He's here? Oh, God. He's going to ruin the game. The inconsistency explained. To be clear, I'm still at the stage of gathering data of my research. My hypothesis states the kinesis cannot transport metal, though. Hence the metal weapon that would have been stayed put. Sorry about that. I swallowed water. It almost went down the wrong hole. In other words, the point was just raised by Mr. Naruto isn't inconsistency at all. Mr. Asman was the patron of my research. Without him, my work wouldn't have been possible. Now I have a duty to protect the incredible machine we built together. So, the thrust of your testimony, Professor, is that based upon his hypothesis, metal objects cannot be moved from by this method of instantaneous kinesis. In other words, since the screwdriver is made of metal, even if it remained lodged in the victim's chest, its subsequent discovery on the stage, despite the victim being found elsewhere, is not an inconsistency. And therefore, the Professor Albert Hairbrain could still have been the killer. That great hypothesis holds, you see? We had to make the cage used to contain that subject from wood for that very reason. I was not addressing you, witness. Professor Hairbrain? Yes? Whose side are you on here? I don't take sides, Mr. Naruto. No. My only interest lies in upholding my hypothesis. I'm a scientist, after all. Is he working for us or against us? It's very hard to tell. Let's see how you cross-examine this testimony, my Ripponese friend. Yes, fire away, Mr. Naruto. Metal.
Objection!
It was an immediate thing I could point out there. Professor Hairbrain, you say that according to your hypothesis, nothing made of metal can be beamed by instantaneous kinesis using the machine you made. Is that right? Yes, that's right. Spot on. Exactly correct. In that case, I'd ask you to have a look at this photograph that was taken at the scene. In particular, I'd like you to pay attention to the victim's face. You can clearly see that Mr. Asman is wearing a pair of spectacles with metal rims. What? Metal? No! Metal can't... That's not... Metal? No! We've already established that the proposed murder weapon, the screwdriver, was found on the stage. However, if your hypothesis correctly predicted that outcome, it should have also predicted that the metal-rimmed spectacles would be found in the same place. Ah! My hypothesis! My hypothesis! Professor Hairbrain, this isn't easy for me to say, but your hypothesis is clearly wrong. Order! Capsule, what is the implication of this? If on the day in question the alleged instantaneous kinesis never actually took place, then it's entirely possible that the victim was killed somewhere other than the stage. And in that case, someone other than the defendant could have been the culprit. But my hypothesis is sound. I proved it that day. The experiment was a success. The experiment was proof for all my work. I would say something here in my capacity as a fellow of the Royal Society. Yes, juror number 4, go ahead. As a man of science, there is one thing I simply cannot abide. And that's a fraud who pretends to be a fellow man of science. What? Wait! Great Scott! Great Scott! Are you suggesting my science is the suspect? It must have been proved, hasn't it? In front of all of us. In other words, the whole demonstration was a complete nonsense from start to finish. Believe me, this fellow jurors, or I tell you this man is a heel, a bounder and a fraud. Oh, I say the records of the machine should be stripped down and thoroughly examined. No! Never! That machine is the essence of my entire hypothesis. It's protected by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. I've already forgotten the voice I gave you. What the devil is that blasted act all about, eh? Who made up such a daft rule? I don't like the way this seems to be going. What's the best way for me to help the professor? I guess I'll raise.
Objection.
Professor Harebrain is yet to perfect his invention. That would seem to be the case, yes. But even so what? Going to such trouble and expense to create a fake machine to display in public. He would have to be absolutely no reason to do such a thing.
Objection!
He had an obvious reason to do exactly that. For the research grant money. If the government was foolish enough to have deemed the man's ridiculous notion plausible, he and his conspirators would have received a ransom sum indeed. Conspirators? What would be the value of such a grant? £10? You're an order of magnitude out, madam. £500 a year. Who are? You could have lived an answer now for years. The Society's noticed an increase in bogus public demonstrations in the field of science recently. And plenty of scientists arguing with each other to get the largest slice of the funding cake. People's greed is plenty motive enough for murder, I assure you. Why is it always juror number 4s that seem to have the most to say? Just shut up. No. I haven't deceived anyone, least of all the government. My hypothesis is sound, the science is sound. Please, you must believe me.
Objection!
No matter how unbelievable this hypothesis may seem to you, ladies and gentlemen, the fact remains that the victim was transported instantly to the Crystal Tower. Which means that the experiment was a success. Barak! And therefore, the only person who could have possibly committed his murder is the accused. Barak. Where is this heading? I have no idea. My lord, if I may.
Yes, Lord Ranzix.
The prosecution would like to summon new witnesses to the stand.
New witnesses? What would the nature of their involvement be?
There were spectators in the demonstration and the exhibition who were occupying special seats. Eyewitnesses?
Very well, the cult grants the prosecution requests. I should very much like to hear from eyewitnesses to the incident.
So it should hopefully be to be continued here because we've already had 2 cross-examinations. Or testimonies. The prosecution's stance is clear. The experiment was no postiche. The accused killer killed the financier victim there on this public stage before the very eyes of the spectators. Now, my learned friend. Oh, yes? It's time for you to make your own stance clear. There's clearly a flaw in the professor's hypothesis. I can definitely see that. But where does that leave me?
We shall take a short recess now, during which time the prosecution will prepare its new witnesses to stand. Blah, blah, blah.
As you wish, my lord.
Good. In that case, court is adjourned for 20 minutes.
Woo! To be continued. Woo! Yes. Save. Trial part 1. Shouldn't this be trial part 2? Right. How long are we going? About an hour and 35 minutes. This is a good place to stop. We can see what these new witnesses are next time. where I shall hopefully be more rested and not my throat would be as off today. I don't know what's going on. Like, my throat was already like starting to kill me halfway through the great deduction, and then it just really started to fall out at the end. I hope I'm not coming down with a cold as well now. I'm still got the whole vertigo thing. I don't need to deal with that as well. But yeah, we shall pick this up on Thursday. And we didn't... purely because we are actually finishing it on a better time this time. Because last time we had to stop like midway through a case or an episode. This time we actually got to do 2. We got to finish the first one, and we were stopped midway through, and we got to do a second one. So this is good. Yes, I want to quit the game. So we pick this up on Thursday. Tomorrow I'll be back with more Dead. And he said Dead Rising, Death Stranding, where we will hopefully see what happens next. We shall be seeing what happens with that. We're going to be seeing what we get with that. We'll continue this on Thursday. We will be continuing the trial and going from there. So yeah, thank you for joining today. Everyone enjoyed, regardless of if it was shorter than normal. I apologize for that. My throat is killing me at the moment, so I'm going to stop now before it gets worse, and then I just lose my voice. But yeah, thanks for joining today as usual. If you haven't already, like, follow, subscribe, all of that stuff, whatever. If you want to support me, thanks to Patreon on tips. If you do become a patron, get anywhere to the Patreon list here. Or I give you a shout out of every stream, like I do with Hiro Kuni, the Soulmaster 37, and Ravishon 2000. I thank you for the continued support. I greatly appreciate you all. And we go to a waxwork and meet with a nice, pretty witch woman. But yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. So tune in for that for Death Stranding. So until then, y'all take care. Have a nice rest of the day. And until next time, bye everyone. Bye Rafatron. Bye Rattleroth if you're still here. See ya. I will remember to look up that sprite, by the way.